everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. It is 5:30 p.m., June 25th, 2025. Ms. Stokely, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. Schaefer?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Mr. Harris could not be with us this evening, but he is listening in. Item B, approval of the agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the agenda of the June 25th, 2025 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, Treasurer, or Superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Stokely, please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Item C is informational items. This is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook, located over there on the stand, and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, he or she must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by an announcement of his or her name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on your screen. And for your convenience, hard copies of the board agenda may be found on the table by the sign-in book. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education is July 9th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. And now for our Pledge of Allegiance and welcome, Mrs. Schaefer.
All right, please stand as you're able and join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City School District, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity.
Thank you, Mrs. Schaefer. Item D is presentations. And first up, we have Dr. Selico with our elementary school closing data. We're looking forward to taking a deeper dive into the data that we've had and the way it's put together for us to go over as a board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. Board members, you have a packet of information there with all of the details that will be presented this evening, so just want to make you aware of that. Also, for those of you who are here tonight, or those of you who are listening, we will have this posted on our website so you can get access to all of the links and the whole presentation. We have a few copies here, but there's a lot to it, so a lot of people prefer electronically, so you will have access to that. So with that, this evening I'm going to present a lot of data. So those of you who are data oriented, we know that that often comes in the form of facts and figures, right? And so what that doesn't always capture though is the emotional attachment that's there for all of our schools, for our families, for our students, and all of the anecdotal experiences that have been shared within the walls of each one of our buildings. And so what you'll see this evening is more related to raw data, numbers, empirical evidence, but I don't want to discount the feelings that are involved and the difficulty of a decision of closing a school. No one ever wants to arrive at this. You've heard us say this many times, especially if you've been following us, and it might sound like a broken record, but it is sincerely a very difficult decision for everyone. We certainly don't relish this decision. But with that, Ryan is going to assist me. I think I forgot my, are you okay doing it? I guess, okay. All right, so first off, when you arrive at making a decision about closing a school, there are many factors to take into consideration. Many more than probably will even be listed here tonight. If I went around the room and said, what do you think you should consider? I'm sure we'd get a variety of different answers. But the board does have a policy in which there are a number of factors, and just to be clear, I bolded the word may because not all of the factors may not be relevant to making this decision. And secondly, we might want to add consider other factors. So this is the board's policy. I'm going to talk about each one of those, actually most of them, not every single one of the 7, because again, there's a couple that aren't necessarily relevant. And then the last one I want to point out is the other uses of buildings and the historical value. So those are some considerations that the board can take into account when making this decision to close a school. All right, so to go through just a number of, again, data, and what I'm going to do this evening, I'm not going to go through every single fact and figure because we would be here a really long time, but again, you will have access to sit and digest all of this information and can look at it more closely because you'll look at it as I have many different ways, as our team has, and may arrive at different decisions throughout or conclusions. But here we have, when we're looking at our schools, we've listed the age. We need to talk about the physical conditions, the operating systems, the different programming. So here I have the schools listed as well as with the building dates, because there are certainly we know there have been additions added onto different buildings, so there are the different dates listed there, the age of the buildings, and then the square footage, which you may want to take into consideration. There is I added Shanae, and for those of you who may not have heard the last meeting or were not at the last meeting, we have been focusing on the 6 elementary schools. And one of the things that I think I haven't been really focused on or informing the board about is Shanae. I happened to be there and I was looking around, I'm like, oh my goodness, I think we're missing an opportunity here to take this into consideration and put it into the fold. And I'm going to talk about that suggestion or for your consideration later. But I did add it here for the purposes of seeing the data relative to Shanae. Over here is the building upgrades and future considerations, if you want to click on that, Ryan. So this link will lead to other information. As soon as we get it. I'm trying to remember which attachment this was specifically. There we go.
This one.
Okay. So what we have here, and I should have worn my glasses, and again, I'm not going to go through each one, but it is listed by building, and what you'll see here are the big ticket items. We did not scrutinize everything that we've done to the buildings because this list would be, really, really long. So we just honed in on the major expenses. So you can see here, access controls, air purification, boilers, elevators, fire alarms, LED lighting, PA system, paving, playgrounds, roof. Like those are some big ticket items. Air conditioning is certainly a big one. Those of you who've been following know that we've been deeply involved in the process at Preston and Price right now, but we have completed Lincoln and Richardson. So there's some investment there. So we just wanted to see, so board, what you have for you here, we have for you here, and I thank Christy and Joe for putting this together, are the expenses related to what we have spent in each fiscal year in each building. Okay, so I just want to point that out again. I'm not going to make any assumptions. I know you all can look through that more in detail. Okay, and we're going to move along, Ryan, to the next slide, if you would. All right, so looking at our policy states environmental and site suitability factors, but there's a little bit more to this, in my opinion. So we had a study done in 2015, and the OFCC, you might have heard us refer to this if you've been around listening to our new project, which is funded through the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. They come out and do very thorough reports on each one of our buildings that you ask them to do, right? And so they have looked at all 6 elementaries. I'm not going to have you click on them, Ryan, only because each one I can tell you is about 70 to 90 pages. It's very extensive. It gives you lots of information, very detailed, but it is listed there for every building, so it gives you the age. There's lots of pictures in there that show you the systems. They'll give you, they'll tell you what is viable, what is not, what the recommended, if they would recommend whether you renovate or what the cost would be to do each one of those, if something needs to be fixed, repaired, etc. So they're very lengthy reports, but I want you to know they're in there. And so board, should you be interested in reading through those, they are all listed for you. And then to me, in walking through the buildings again, because I'm just trying to do our due diligence and really going through with a really critical eye and speaking with the team and looking at floor plans and all those other things. And being a former elementary principal, I can't help but think of some certain things that come to mind when you're talking about traffic flow. Those of you who are parents know pickup, drop off are all big challenges. Do we have can we accommodate for larger schools drop off, pickup, meaning if we increase enrollment at a building? Do we have the ability to accommodate parking, drop off, pickup? I'm thinking of cafeteria sizes, our specials, ensuring that our lunch schedules as well as our specials, meaning art, music, PE. I personally would love to be able to preserve spaces, classrooms for our specialist teachers. I know that would be their preference, meaning they don't have to teach art out of a cafeteria or something similar to that. So I would like you to please keep that in mind as you're looking at this. All right, Ryan? So, something very important to look at are our locations in the community, right? Like where are our schools currently located? And here they are. So I want you to just take a look at where they're situated, and then those are also our current boundary lines. All right, I'm going to come back to a little deeper discussion on boundaries later on in the presentation, but that's a link to it. We don't have to hit it because it's actually a link to that exact map, just a little bit bigger. But for your consideration, those of you who will look at this online, you'll have an opportunity to see that a little bit closer. So building capacity, you've heard me say this before. One of my biggest concerns, our biggest concern is building capacity. And so when we go to close a building, do we have the capacity and where do we have the capacity to relocate students and how many rooms do we have? This is, I don't want to say this is conservative. I would say this is middle of the road estimation in terms of not utilizing every single space that we're crunched in like little sardines, because that is not what I would prefer us not to have to get to that situation. But it's also allowing for specials to have their own rooms, and maybe this includes some intervention specialists having to share space, so there is some sharing that would have to go on there. And if you look, what I did is I have the enrollment here listed, and we estimated kindergarten because that's always the unknown, but we know what we have so far, so they're relatively accurate. The projected number of classrooms we would need based on those numbers, the number of special education rooms needed, because this is one thing that I think people often forget. We do utilize a lot of space for our special needs students, and then the total of rooms needed, and then the total rooms available in each one of the buildings. If you look, our biggest, our largest number of rooms available is at Lincoln. They have a great number of rooms available there at 7. It could be pushed to 8, but I wasn't comfortable saying the 8th because they have some extra programming there that I wouldn't want to forego that space for. DeWitt, 1 to 2. Preston, 3 to 4. Price really has no room. They've grown in their enrollment. Richardson has likely 4, and then Silver Lake would be pushing, I might have said 1, but 1 to 2 I think we could do, but there still would be some sharing as I walked around there. I also just listed for your information, and we won't get into this discussion this evening, but if I looked at the total enrollment and then I excluded open enrollment just for comparison's sake, what those numbers would look like there in the final column. If you click on the capacity study, I asked our data person, Chris Shaw, you all know, to look at the spaces, the number of students we have available. So I want to be clear about something, that the classroom spaces that we have available are one thing. So if we have 7 classrooms available, that might accommodate 175 children, right? But one of the things that we haven't thought about in that previous slide is the number of students, the open seats here. If you see in that column where it says open and you look down there, 40, I'm sorry, I can't see, like 48, or I see 4s. It's not good, I need my glasses. But those numbers are the amount of seats that we could still fill, the number of seats. Because some of the class sizes might be 21. And I'll just point out, if you look at, well, let me say it this way. If you look in the blue column at the top there in the middle, it says kindergarten. I think that should say 22. And then K1 is 22, grades 2 are 24. Third grade would be 25, I think that says. So based off of those numbers. And then 4th and 5th would probably be the same. We would use 25. We don't like to get to 26, but on occasion we might have to. And that might be a change for some schools. They're not accustomed to class sizes of 24, 25. I will tell you, in my experience in talking with other colleagues in previous places I've been, those are not unreasonable class sizes. We have had a luxury here, and I appreciate that we have, and I think we're fortunate to have been able to have small class sizes, but that's been a little bit of a luxury in school funding world related to expenses, and I'm glad we've been able to, but this might be a time where things change. But I will tell you, we are striving for 22, 24, and 25, which are, again, very reasonable numbers. But I wanted to point that out. So there are class sizes there that she put in, the numbers there that we have open spots that we could still put more students in those classrooms there. Does that make sense? All right.
I also think it makes sense too when you go back to the 5-year forecast and you think of how the state funds. Those are the numbers they're funding off
That's
of.
right. That's right.
So if you're comparing what we're trying to do based off of how the state funds us, they're funding us based on assumption that we have a certain number of students in.
That's correct.
And
That's
as
a good
we're
point.
also facing the economic realities that are forcing this decision as
Yep.
well.
Yep, thanks, Mr. Gomez. That's a good point. Yes. I'm just going to spend a real brief moment on this because those of you who have been following along, the question will come up, even if I'm speaking publicly to different groups. The question comes up, why are Cuyahoga Falls, why is our enrollment down? Well, just a real quick snippet. Here's one of the reasons. It's not just Cuyahoga Falls. Our Ohio birth rates counts are down quite a bit, considerably. If you look over time, the last, 15, 16 years, you can see how just the birth rate alone has declined. And then if you carry that out a little bit more and you look at, go to the next one, the Ohio enrollment, public school enrollment, you can also see a decline. It's down 7% over the last 10 years. So public schools in general are losing students. We can, again, birth rates is one factor. We can guess what some of those others are, just people making different decisions, choices, homeschooling, online schools, parochial, community, etc. Okay? So then, if we move over to Cuyahoga Falls schools in particular, you can see the trends. And now what I put in here was the past, and then the next one will be future. But if you've been, again, following Ms. Stoikoi in her presentation, has shared that our decline in enrollment is down 24% in the last 10 years. That's a big number. That really is a statistically significant amount of students to decline. So you can see the trajectory there and the progression in the downward way. So the next slide, though, will show you then what the future predicts, what they predict in the future. Now, this isn't us doing the study. We have a company that focuses solely on doing these, and this is from them and what they have given us in another lengthy report. But they're projecting 351 children less over the next 10 years or so, and so that's a 9% decrease, which isn't the 24% we just saw. So our team has kind of scratched our heads a little on that. That's kind of a big difference. down 9% versus 24%, but maybe there's some leveling off in there, but these are their predictions. And they use live birth rates as part of their study, and then they use it base it off of our enrollment, of course, too. So those are the trends. So that's what we're predicted in the future. Then we look at transportation. This is another consideration, that it's a big consideration. It's also listed, I believe, in our policy. And the number of students, what you see here, it's nothing really fancy, and I'm not even sure it's all that informative, but I wanted you to at least see it. These are the current number of buses that depart each one of our buildings each day that have routes. So for example, DeWitt has 3 buses every day. Lincoln has 2. Preston, you can see. Van, we have addition. Some people may not be aware, but in order, as a cost-saving measure, we've decided to purchase vans that really help when you have just to shuttle 1 student or 2 or small numbers. That really helps us save a lot of money. So there's the vans. And then the shuttle is just, we have students that might go from one school to another for the YMCA program, the Boys and Girls, that's considered a shuttle. So those are what we currently have. In speaking with our transportation coordinator, the more students you add, you know, if you, for example, I hypothetically put more students at Lincoln, because we know there's a lot of room there. Currently, there's 2 buses. If you added more students that exceed the need to have 2 buses, that would be your increase. So if you need 4 buses now, you currently have 2, your decision would then be, you would take into consideration, oh, we had to add 2 routes. And I'll come back, I'm going to talk about that in our last slide as well. I'll talk a little bit more about why that's important. Then the distance study, this was done by Mr. Hutch. He put together some numbers for you to see where, some charts relative to like where the next nearest school is, the distance from each other, so you can take a look to see if that may have any bearing. And we could just show one of those, Ryan, if you just want to click on one as an example. Like, he went school by school, and my goodness, it's so tiny. So it says average distance from Richardson Elementary School, and then it says Richardson, DeWitt, and Preston, so it shows the distances, and the numbers that are associated, maximum distance, number of walkers, and bus riders. This is not taken into consideration inter-district, I believe, right, or open enrollment?
No open enrollment.
No open enrollment, okay.
And this it just assumes anyone that's not a bus rider calls a walker. We obviously know that most of our students probably aren't walking, but just so when people are looking at this, they understand that. We know most of our families are dropping their kids off because we see the traffic, but it's just calling it a walker if they're not a bus rider.
I'm assuming that's correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Eligible for transportation, not
Yes,
eligible.
yeah.
Okay. So that's another, something else for your consideration to look at. So those of you who have, I don't know how many of you use Canva. Anybody in the audience use Canva? Okay, well this is, it's not your traditional PowerPoint where it's easy transitions. Canva's a little fussy. It does a beautiful presentation, and thanks to Ms. Stewart, I can't take any credit. Give her the numbers and she goes and makes it beautiful. Okay, so the alternative uses of buildings. So a big consideration, and this is something I want to just spend another minute on. We need to determine what we want to do, like, again, visionary, right? We need to think years ahead. We need to be mindful of what our long-term goals are, and so what do we do with buildings, right? So we have the option to sell a property. We know we're in the midst of doing that right now, our high school and Roberts School. We need to look at future sites of our new elementary schools, that should be plural, and that is on the right there, those are the acreage, those are the buildings with the amount of acreage that each one of them has. And so just, again, something to consider for the future. And then the other thing that I mentioned last meeting is something I really want you to consider, which is going back to Shanae and repurposing Shanae. I think we've been talking about closing schools, and I know it can be a matter of semantics, but rather than I think there is a difference between closing and repurposing. And what I would suggest to you this evening is to consider repurposing an elementary school and not closing one. And what that allows us to do, it still closes Shanae's, but it's not closing an existing elementary school. Shanae is, for those that don't know, there's an alternative program that goes on there, Shanae Learning Center, as well as a preschool program. So what I would suggest and ask you to consider is relocating Shanae's students, preschool and Black Tiger family, to an elementary school, and therefore you're not closing one of our existing 6 elementary schools. It affords our students the opportunity, our youngest learners, to be and staff, to be in an air-conditioned building potentially, depending on, again, what decisions we make relative to air conditioning, but it allows them to be in a school that's existing, that also needs to be considered with our youngest learners and our students with disabilities. We need to be mindful of that with ADA accessibility, how they would be able to maneuver around a building. Some of our buildings, frankly, and we know this, are more challenging for them to get around, so you would need to take that into consideration. And therefore, not all choices would work in this instance, should you consider this. We would sell Shanae, so we would get proceeds from that building, and I believe we will have prospective, we have some ideas that could lend itself well. I tried to do as much as I could research to inform you and as much legwork as I could for you. And I think we would be okay in selling Shanae, should that be the case. And then you're, again, repurposing, not really closing. So you would keep all your schools viable. All right?
And also will save us money in the budget in the future, because if we keep using Shanae, we know we're gonna have to do investments and improvements there as well. So I think that's important as well. And the other thing, as larger school districts have talked about, like Columbus is going through school closings, and Akron's talking about the impact of school closings, is that it destabilizes neighborhoods. And so I think the benefit of, even if it's not an elementary school, you're still keeping the stability of a school building and the kind of community connections that can provide in the neighborhood that is used to having that. So I think that's a positive with that option as well.
Agreed. Yep, more good points. I would agree. And Shanae does need some work. Like, no offense to the architect, but whoever did that design of the roof, if anyone's ever seen it, it's nearly impossible to repair and very costly. And I think we've tried unsuccessfully to repair that. The one wing is relatively nice. The preschool wing is nice, but the other wings and the other main areas, certainly need some money put into them. All right, so looking at cost savings, right? I mean, the reason we're at this juncture is because we are in a financial position that is really forcing our hand to make this decision. And so what the treasurer, Ms. Stoikoi, has done is she put together some savings by school, and in the categories, she looked at salaries, benefits, equipment, and then I won't read to you, but there's the list. It's big enough, I think, for most people to see. So she looked at all of those areas and what that would look like, how much money we would save by each building. So if you click on that there, this one's a lengthy document. There's several pages to it.
And if I could add to that, I mean,
Yeah.
all of this is right now, so especially when you're looking at like salary and benefits, it's not like if you were to say, any one of those buildings, you can just look at that line and say, oh, that's the people that are gonna, that's the amount we're gonna save if we do this building, because it all is going to be contractual and people would have to be shifted around. So that was just representative, and then showing those averages, because you're not going to be able to just say, okay, everyone in your building, you don't have a job. They're going to be able to bump, other teachers based on seniority there. And at the time when we originally did this, we did not include this year because we weren't done yet, so I didn't have final numbers. So that's why you don't see anything from this year, because this is just now the end of our fiscal year, so it wouldn't have been a complete data for this year, so I didn't include it because I didn't want it to skew anything.
Can I interrupt just for 1 minute? Can everyone hear us with these fans going on and everything? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I don't know, can you hear me right now talking at this level? Okay. Board members, can we just try to make sure we're projecting more than normal, which is not my natural voice, but I just want to make sure everyone that is here this evening And probably for the microphones too, with these fans and everything going. I want to make sure everyone can hear everything everyone has to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
One other quick thing, because I just thought of too. When you're looking at some of the, especially like in the 600s, so like the building improvements, you're not going to see, those are like these are the daily operating costs. So we didn't include big, what's on that other spreadsheet that she showed you where it's like we did the roof, we did air conditioning, we did this. That was not included in this because we were trying to look at strictly operational on a day-to-day basis if with just the minor repairs or fixes that you would have anywhere, whether it was new or older. We kept the major improvements again to not skew those numbers from one school to the other, and kind of kept those on a separate document for those one-time investments in those buildings.
Thank you. So that's going to be an important document, I would imagine, that you want to spend some time on looking at. And then this is not, I want to be clear, this is not in your board policy as a consideration. And I have mixed feelings personally about putting it in, but it's come up quite a few times from feedback we've received from our stakeholders. So I just wanted to point it out, whether or not it's helpful for you or not. But this is based on the 23-24 report card. As you know, we're measured by stars, and this is the overall ratings of each school. So the only thing I would like to mention, and this is just being like kind of like a proud superintendent moment, of the work that our staff has done, is statistically speaking, you have a variance, a difference between 3.5 and 4.5 stars, which is a net of 1 star. And so I want to point out, and that's me probably being protective of the achievement and the great work that we do in our schools, that they really all are doing well. And I'm proud of the work. We are improving. You're going to see some good growth in some areas this year after our report card, and this will be changed. These will fluctuate a little bit. But I just want to point it out because it's been addressed before. But we all are really doing fairly well, and I'm proud of our work. So it's there. I just thought I would throw it in because I've heard this mentioned to me several times. Okay, and then the last one I want to close on is just kind of final considerations, because there's a lot that I threw out there today. I didn't spend a lot of time in depth on each one because there is so much, and I know I was told 15 minutes, which that's a lot to ask in doing all of this, and it's such important work. I'm sorry that I went over. But the things that are really going to come into play, and I want us to go in with our eyes wide open, knowing the implications of what decision we make, is redistricting, number 1. Margie is working on, that's our transportation supervisor, she's working on redrawing lines and, kind of based on each one of the schools, should you choose. So she's looking at closing each one and doing a different diagram, if you will. So the number of students impacted will vary. So we are talking about perhaps either repurposing or closing an elementary school. Those are not the only parents and students that will be impacted. So I want to be very clear about that lines will need to be redrawn. And people are going to go perhaps to different schools than they're accustomed to. The number of parents and families that are impacted will depend on the school that's chosen. I just want to be clear about that. I've seen some preliminary, like just playing around with boundaries. I give them credit for what they do. But just playing around and looking, they're certainly, I just want you to know that because that is going to disrupt a number of our families in our communities, and I know that's what we're concerned about. So just want to point that out. The second thing, demographics is always very important. Sometimes this is more pertinent and noticeable in different communities, but it is something to consider, just making sure that we have a racially, socioeconomically, culturally diverse representation in each one of our schools. If we're able, that would be a goal. Transportation, I said I would return to this. So the implications of transportation, I know you all know this very well, and you've been very kind and supportive of the things we've needed to do in transportation. But you are not just adding routes. When you add routes to schools, you are adding drivers, perhaps vehicles. We might need more buses. Definitely drivers. So they're monitors, right? It goes on and on. So transportation is definitely something I have to point out, and the cost associated with it, of course. So transportation is very costly, as we know, but again, something just to consider. And then our students and staff. I mean, first and foremost, they probably should have come first there. I've already addressed, and I said I'd come back to this as well, class sizes. So I know I've been in this business a long time, and what people will say to me oftentimes, and even now I've gotten calls that people have thought that we were going to put 30 or 50 children in a classroom. We're never going to have 50 students in a classroom. 30 is, in middle school, I'll be honest, there are a couple with like specials classes, electives that have 30. But at elementary, and being, again, an elementary educator, we would have to be in some really bad shape to get to 30 students in elementary. So, but I want you to know that there most likely, in many instances, will be an increase in your class sizes, no matter what building it is, because we are going to put more students into, we're going to fill some of those seats in other classrooms. So, but what we are striving for is what I said to you this evening, 22, 24, 25, 26 in the fourth, maybe fourth, fifth. But those are the numbers we're striving for. So could it teeter, one way or another? Could there be some exceptions where there's 17, 18? Absolutely. We just don't know until we get there. But those are all things. And then I certainly don't want to be remiss. I know we have new people coming in this evening, and I'm probably scaring them to death. I apologize. Don't worry. We've been very successful when we've had to make staff reductions of using attrition. That is always our goal. Attrition meaning that when someone leaves, we just don't fill that spot. So we are not having reductions in force. Can we promise that? No, but that is what we strive for, and we've been pretty successful in the last couple of years in right-sizing some things. But there is an impact for staff, as we know, as well, and we are concerned about that. So those are the things I would like to leave you with. Again, there will be access. I do want to thank my team. They've been a great sounding board. They've contributed their insights. I appreciate it. They've provided me with data. And as I mentioned, Christine has done a phenomenal job for my last minute changes and additions and revisions. So I do appreciate all of you and the work you guys have done to help. So any questions or anything else I can answer?
My question for my fellow board members is, this Schnee option was presented to us last meeting. We were pretty receptive to it. We've now had 2 more weeks to consider it. Do we want to stick with our receptivity to that and say that's the path we really want to keep exploring? We want to make a commitment to explore that path further, to give our superintendent and her team more direction, because that does give them some helpful direction, because it kind of does roll in and roll out some buildings for future exploration. It doesn't make the decision, but it kind of helps them narrow down the list.
I am comfortable with exploring that option in more detail, and I think that we're going to have our discussion about our special meeting for June, and I think after that being brought up to us last meeting, and then along with this and all of this data, I personally am in favor of that being what we focus our energy on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk this loud. I do not have a loud voice. My children will tell you I can't yell at them. I have a stern face with them, but I'm not a yeller.
I like that idea very much, because I've always thought we should close Schnee. It's not really being used as much as it used to be, and I think that's a good option.
I definitely am supportive as well. It essentially rules out 3 schools that would not be options because they wouldn't meet the needs of the preschool, and then would keep 3 in consideration. So we're keeping that commitment of we're not saying this building is closing, which is what the commitment we made to the community for tonight, and I think important that we keep our promise to the community and not do that, but at the same time kind of gives more direction to our superintendent and her team as they gather data and we move forward.
I think for me, the biggest part of that option for us is we know in the future that we're going to want to put forward a bond issue for new elementary buildings at some point, and that may not even be the 5 of us that are currently here and elected. That's in the future, but by doing this, we're not eliminating any of our current sites and that are able to have a building on. We're not tying the hands of future boards with that decision, whoever that may be. And we know that that's an important decision that will be coming down the line. And I think a lot of us, I think that was a big hurdle for us before this wonderful option, this genius option that you came up with. So for me, that's important, is to not tie the hands of future boards when it
Can I
comes to
ask a
that.
question? If we repurpose another building, elementary school, close Schnee, repurpose another elementary building and move the preschool to another elementary building, I know we did a lot of remodeling at Schnee to make it a usable space. Would there be a large cost with that?
That's a good question. And in your document too, we included Shanae. I asked Christy to add that, the Shanae cost, just so you can see what we have spent. That was right before I got into the district, so probably 4 or 5 years ago, they did that work. What's nice is elementary buildings are pretty equipped to handle a preschool. We'll get licensing pretty easily. The only thing that we would have to consider is perhaps a playground. Preschool has a lot of regulations to it. If we have any preschool educators in here, there's a lot associated with that. So playground, maybe a little bit of an issue. Toileting, I think we can manage all of that. Classroom size is the big one. You have to have a certain amount of square footage per child, so I think we're great there. I think we would be okay, and I've spoken to the city about the preschool, the playground that they are so graciously putting in for us at Shanae, and I asked her to put a timeout on that, and I think they would possibly be able to relocate it to whatever building we would choose. So that's good news.
Would we have to put like a lock between the two portions? And right now the preschool is a locked unit.
Okay, so at Shanae currently you have a T, if you will. So preschool, and then this way is the alternative school. And there's some doors there that we would definitely want to. That's where there would be some cost.
Okay.
And I could think of a couple. Like I just eyeballed the schools and thinking the ones that I think would work, where we might put a door, some doors. Yep. And you also, in a couple of the buildings, you do have nice access. Like you can have 2 separate entrances pretty easily.
Okay.
Do you know, is there, and this can be answered at a later date, but it might be something you need to look into. Is there a compliance issue with our current playgrounds at buildings that would be a possibility when it comes to preschool? Are all of those, I don't know, is there a difference in what you can have on a preschool playground
Yeah, there actually
and a
is,
regular playground?
Unfortunately, some of our pieces of equipment might be okay, but I would imagine we would want that other playground equipment that they would put in. Yeah, believe it or not, even though you think what's suitable for a kindergartner or preschooler, it's not, especially when you're dealing with students with disabilities.
Well, of the 3 buildings, 2 of them have older playgrounds anyway. One of them
Yeah,
has a newer playground.
I was
That's what we'd be
thinking
talking about.
specifically of certain things at certain buildings that I'm like, I don't know if those are preschool.
Yeah.
We'd be talking about our 3 one-story elementary schools as going forward as possibilities. So that would be Price, Preston, and Richardson.
That's correct. The other thing that when I said, and thank you for saying that, Mr. Gomez, because you just triggered something that I did not mention relative to building capacity, but please take into consideration the number of students we have to relocate. So if it is a larger building of 400, 300, whatever, that's going to be difficult to do based on the numbers of rooms that I shared with you. So I would want you to take a look at, that's why I provided you with the overall enrollments in each of the buildings, because we will have an easier time relocating less students. I think that's common sense, but I do want to just point that out.
Mr. Gomez stated, I think that we're all in agreement that that's the direction that we're going to be going. I appreciate all the hard work. I know there's so much data, and I know that everyone here had played a part, and people that are not here have played a big part as well. So just thank you to everyone that worked so hard to get all of this information for us, so that we can make the best decision. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 2. We're going to have a discussion just on a special meeting for elementary building closure. The last time that we, as a board, had discussed, we had talked about possibly doing a special meeting in June and adding a special meeting to discuss after we had a presentation on data, which is what we just had. So just wanted to open up for discussion. Do we feel, after the presentation and the data that we've gotten, do you feel as a board that we need a special meeting, or we already have a meeting scheduled June 9th? We could put that at the top of our agenda. It'd be the first thing that we do. We have a rather, I'm sorry, July.
Yeah.
I keep saying June. July 9th. We could put it at the top of our July 9th meeting. That agenda's looking not to be very heavy. And do we want to keep it with that instead of doing a special meeting? The benefits to doing it then would be if we are in a place to make a decision and make motions. If it's not a special meeting in its agenda, it is easier for us to do so and do that as well. So I'm just wondering what everyone's thoughts are on that.
You said that meeting is light on presentations?
Yes,
Okay.
I think
but
that
I'm open to
works for
suggestions.
me. That would work for me. I like that idea. Although I'm free, I can come
Right.
another time. I'm usually,
I just want to
home.
make sure we have it clarified and we know so that we can communicate to the community
yeah,
what
no,
day
I
it
think
is.
that would be fine.
I'm fine with that, but what is our goal for the next meeting, next time we have a discussion on this? If we're gonna be making. possible
Originally, our
action.
goal was to definitively narrow it down to 3, which I feel like we haven't officially voted on anything, but I feel like that's kind of the direction that we already have been this evening.
It
I
might
don't-
afford you
I-
some time, Ms. Coco, excuse me.
Yes.
It might afford you some time to, look at what I've given you tonight, and then maybe as a suggestion, would it be beneficial to come with the 3 in mind, or 2 or 3? I mean, I know you guys have said 3, but I also don't know that you have to land on 3 if you wanted. If it made sense to pick 2 or 4, I don't know. That's certainly your decision, but maybe in 2 weeks, would that be a reasonable thing to come with?
Would you be able to have the information from Margie
Yeah.
on July 9th
Oh,
for us
yeah,
to look
that'd
at? So that would give us
Mhm.
purpose, and, because I think that's one important thing to know, is impacts on transportation, and then possible boundaries, and then we could have discussion from there, because there's a million ways to move boundaries ultimately. So, like, seeing what she's done would be helpful, but ultimately, there's a million different ways to move the boundaries, so I'd be interested in knowing, like, how she determined this, like, is it based on certain mileage, like, what went into her thought process?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's beneficial to have her come, maybe
Maybe.
explain that to you.
Yeah.
It
Come
is-
and do that.
Like, it's easy for me to say, oh, just draw some lines, and I don't even know what I'm talking about, and then, because she did call me later, and she's like, I'm having a real hard time with such and such a school, because it's like, I can't get them all places, and I don't know what that means, like, I'm just like, oh, okay, but can you tell me what that means specifically? Like, why you can't do certain things, and so maybe, I would just be the middleman, it's not, I don't mind doing the grunt work, but I'm not the person, so, I don't know, maybe we can get Margie here to show you, she can, I can tell you this, if we can narrow it, she could spend more time if we knew, if she didn't have to do all 6, I mean,
Well, I
but,
think we kind of gave her the 3, so.
if you're comfortable with the 3, I'll have her work on those 3.
and she can always add more if you need her to, but it is a time-consuming project. It's not something we all understand, but, it's time-consuming.
So I would be comfortable with the 3, and I think it might be a good idea to have her here that evening
Yeah, I can
and
see if she's
explain
available.
the
I agree.
boundaries
Yeah.
to us if we,
And then we could have discussion on how we want to engage the community once school's back in session. So then, if it's 2 or if it's 3, we can make plans for that, and then we can get ourselves from there to a decision-making
Right.
framework in hopefully maybe in September. Because more time for all of you I know is helpful, more time for our families to know is helpful, and then more time to let not just the school that's impacted, but then once that decision's made, to let whoever else is going to be impacted by the boundary redrawing know. So I think just to do it as soon as possible to let people know.
I think as well, and, if we get to the point that we're narrowing it down to 2 that evening, then that's where we get, without sitting and digesting and then getting the boundary stuff, I don't want to commit us to saying, oh, we're going to do this if everybody's not ready to do that, but I feel comfortable that just the natural progressions of things that might be the outcome of our meeting on July 9th, and be open to that. And I agree with the progression, and then the making sure that we have time to engage the community in those schools. And as Mr. Gomez said, sooner, we've said November, if we're able to do it sooner than that, I think we're sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty for our families and our stakeholders and our staff and everyone during this time. And it's a huge decision, and it's not one that any of us want to make, but we have to. And I think that the sooner that we can have that for our community, the better.
And to give that, whatever building it is, as much time to say
Yeah.
farewell to itself and its state as an elementary school too, I think is helpful.
Yes. So is everyone in favor of then doing
I agree.
July 9th will be
Yes.
agenda item, it'll be at the top of our agenda on July 9th. Okay. Thank you. Okay. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. It's 6:23 p.m. We appreciate everyone that's here, but we know that you're probably not here for the rest of our boring things. They're not boring. There's exciting 6 through 12. There's a 6 through 12 discussion about our new 6 through 12 campus. So please stay if you'd like to, but we also know that you probably don't want to be rude and get up in the middle if you don't want to stay. So we're going to take a 5-minute recess. It's 6:23 p.m. We'll
Mo-
convene at 6:28. Thank you.
You don't have to have a motion for all.
Okay, okay.
All right,
That's why
we're back.
What's going on now?
It is 6:28 PM. We are back in session.
Good economy.
Thank you. And we are on item E, Treasurer CFO's Business Consent Agenda. Ms. Stokely.
I have no
I'd
internet.
like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
So first thing, there's quite a bit here, since this is the end of the fiscal year, the last meeting before the end of the fiscal year, so a number of things that we do every year to close out one year and start the other. But first, we have another about handful of donations that very much appreciate. You can see all different ones from the Black Tiger Center, and then some for Lincoln Elementary, students at Lincoln Elementary. So thank you to those individuals for helping us out. You have so then we have the final appropriations for the end of this fiscal year, which I gave you a hard copy because those get updated last minute. There were some last minute expenditures today to close out the year. So what you have in your hand is what is attached to the agenda there, and then we have our temporary appropriations, which help get us started in order to expend funds for the next fiscal year, which starts July 1st. And as a reminder, we do about 25% of what our year expenditures were to set the temporary. We have to do it, but technically, I always give you guys the permanent appropriations for next year at the July meeting, so you'll see those at the July meeting. So really, it is now to kind of get us that gap, but the permanent ones you'll see next meeting will supersede these. So this is basically just to open the books and spend before then. Advances, transfers, there are a couple on here, and a couple of transfers that are out of the ordinary. So we have a couple of advances that this sheet was also updated just to cover some bases, just in case, and if not, no harm, no foul that we have, that you guys approved of, but in the case that we do need to do them, I'll have the authority to do it. So looking at 3 of our grant funds that need money moved because they're in the red to close out the year. And then under transfers, so the first 2 are typical every year. So our unclaimed funds or our stale dated checks, after 5 years, they get put in a separate account for a holding. And after 5 years, if no one has claimed them or said, hey, I didn't get this check, or where is it, then those, per board policy, those can go back to the general fund. So that's there. Our class of 2025, also per board policy, it goes to the next senior class, so it moves any money they have left over, gets moved to the class of 2026 for their balance. And then the other 2 you see on there is just in order to consolidate our 2 middle school accounts. So one being the principal's account and the other being a library account, both O18s that there were 2 separate ones, one for Bullock and one for Roberts. But as we're making that move next year to be just middle school, we are going to be transferring what is left over in those to the combined, to the Bullock accounts. That'll now be overall middle school. And then the last thing is just the alternative tax budget for the library. So I do not prepare this, but as you know, because as we have to put their levy renewals and different things like that on, this is another item that we are required to approve. They approve it also, the library approves it on their end, and then it gets sent to the county budget commission, very similar to how we do ours, except ours happens in January and theirs happens in July. So it's just a little different timing. So you will see all that there from the library.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion?
So at our next meeting, when we approve the appropriations for the next fiscal year, you're gonna give us a presentation on that and then about how we met the 10% reductions.
I can.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear what you said, I'm sorry.
You might wanna wait, well, yes, we can do that.
Okay.
Because we're just talking about the building departments, yes. Yep.
Okay,
Put something together.
thank you.
I'm sorry, you
She's
asked
gonna
what
give us a presentation on the budget before we approve it and then how we met the 10% reductions.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Ms. Stokely, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Mrs. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye. That brings us to item E, treasurer CFOs. I'm sorry, that brings us to item F, treasurer CFO's business.
I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve the May 2025 investment schedule and monthly spending report.
So moved.
Second.
Most of this, again, like I said, is not super surprising because this is based on the forecast that was given last month. So we can look at interest first. So May is definitely one of our lower months. You can see overall our cash flow is down typically anyways, and then our cash flow is down from years past for investing purposes. So we've had to pull some money out of Red Tree and like our general account in order to meet the needs of all of our expenses and payroll and everything. But still, we're still getting a good return. We're trying to maximize that, and then you can see all the different construction accounts. But so far this year, and I know the majority of it falls in with our building project, but we've had over $3 million in interest. Unfortunately, the stuff that's in that building up project is restricted to that, and maybe not even that, depending on what OFCC allows us to use that for. So just something to keep in mind there. And then looking at the general fund. These months of April, May, and then like September, August tend to fluctuate from year to year, just depending on the timing of when we receive proceeds from the county for taxes and different things like that. Expenditures are a little under what they were last year from May, so not untypical of May, and then you'll see it again in June that there's a negative cash result of operations, and so we were right around 9 million at the end of May. Keeping in mind that in June we did not have to make an additional, we did not make an insurance payment because we made the double payment back in October. So you will see that difference there, that there won't be almost $1 million expense because we are also experiencing cash flow, and so we decided to, as a consortium, double pay that to get that going and then not pay in June. That's really is exciting.
Discussion?
I say it'll be an easy few days in your office because nobody can spend money now.
One would think.
They'll try,
They
but
still try.
they'll try, but they can't because
Yeah.
once we
That's
vote,
up
the
to
books
you.
are
It was a
closed.
little stressful today. I was like, everybody stop.
We have
Stop.
6 days, 6 days.
A couple of those a weekend. You gotta make it. So.
Thank you. Ms. Stokely, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
That brings us to item G, Superintendent CEO's business. Dr. Salk?
She had comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, any comments?
Oh, yes. So, we are closing year end. It's been a little hectic, but going well. It's been a busy year. It'll be a busy year next year. I know I won't get into it, but I know Mr. Harris isn't here. So, the biennial budget was passed today, and will be sent to the governor for any kind of line item vetoes. There's some good and bad. We had thought perhaps that House Bill 335 would be included in this, and it was not, and that eliminates inside millage, which for us is over $5 million. The proposal in House Bill 35 is just to take that away. And with no way of rectifying where we will get that money from. And it's over $5 million a year for us. So imagine that compacted 5 times in the forecast. That's not a pretty picture. And you know, it wasn't the best with it. So thankful that that was not included, but it's still out there as its own standalone bill. So there's still, please reach out. My article in Roar will touch on it. Kind of by the time it reached homes, we weren't sure if it would happen. Same thing with the biennium bill, so it was kind of just highlighting what the potential impacts could be, and it may have not been passed. So please reach out to your legislators on that. Some other things, they did include the cash balance threshold at 40%, so we can't have cash carryover more than 40%, or the county auditor then can adjust our millage in order to rectify that, which to me, as I talked to Dr. Salico this morning, for districts right now that have way more than that, it seems like there will just be a lot of irresponsible spending happening in order to get under that 40%, which doesn't seem logical and doesn't seem responsible, and but I don't know what else they want us to do with that. So there was a number of other things there, but overall it's not terrible, but I guess that's all relative, which what they rolled out was not great, and so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it's still not great for public education as a whole in the state of Ohio.
They also eliminated emergency levies.
Yes.
Just something we'll need to have a conversation about, because we have one and we will not be able to renew it as such. So that will be a burden to our district. Do you know if they included the STRS thing?
I was just looking
Wait,
at
yeah.
Okay.
an email, the
They
STRS,
still don't have
SCRS
it right, yeah.
payments, like the retirement pickup.
Yeah.
It said that's in there and was extended to include principals.
Okay, so that's another thing we'll have to address in our district because it's in several people's contracts. So we'll need a future executive session to discuss that.
Yeah, we don't want to give them any other future ideas, but still they haven't gotten it right. If they really wanted to do it the right way, they're still missing a whole lot of people.
But we'll need an executive session probably to discuss that.
Yeah, it's hopefully
Sounds
those specific.
And probably a future agenda item about the emergency levy.
Yes.
Yep.
That's it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for always keeping us up to date on the ever-changing landscape that is finance and
It's hard sometimes.
state funding.
Flurry of emails and all sorts of things. Hard to keep up sometimes with all the changes, especially this time of year with closing a fiscal and when there's a biennial budget. There's always a flurry in June of lots of changes.
Thank you. And that brings us to item G, Superintendent CEO's business consent agenda. Dr. Salka.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves all items listed in the superintendent's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So a few personnel items, I'll come back to our new hires. So we have some custodial and secretary assignments there that you see there in our classified staff. We have our coaches listed.
We have a couple of resignations as we anticipate this time of the year. And we have the adoption of the online learning plan. This is, you've seen this before, this is just required by the state, again, as a result of COVID, ensuring that we have a plan for our students in the event that something similar would happen again. And then we have the LEA agreement for Neonet, and this is for 3 employees that we contract for them through Mr. Hutch's departments. Then lastly, I want to introduce to you some potential hires in which you will be voting on this evening. And so if I call your name, if you just raise your hand so we know who you are. First we have Sarah Keaton. Sarah, okay. Sarah would be joining us as our newest member of the Richardson staff in her role as an intervention specialist. Ms. Keaton comes to us with 4 years of experience from Bedford City Schools, I'm not responsible, where she would be voted Rookie of the Year. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Education from Kent State University with a major in mild to moderate and minor in autism spectrum disorders. Allie Middleton, there's Allie. Allie would come to us fresh from her student teaching experience. She is a graduate of Miami University where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Education with a major in primary education, pre-K-5, and a minor in primary special education. Ms. Middleton will serve students at our Cuyahoga Falls preschool as an early childhood intervention specialist. Matthew Desampeda, I get it? All right. You may recognize Matt as he was at Silver Lake School as a building substitute last year. I've seen him many times in action. He's completed his student teaching experience there as well as during the 23-24 school year. And the students and staff are excited to welcome him back this coming year as their new 4th grade teacher. He has earned a Bachelor of Science in Education with a major in early childhood education and a minor in special education from Kent State University. Sarah Platts. Sarah joins our speech and language pathologist team with over 20 years of experience in the field. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in Speech Language Hearing Disorders and a Master's of Arts in Speech Language Pathology, both from Edinburgh University of Pennsylvania. As a resident of the Falls, Ms. Platts is very excited for the opportunity to serve her community in this capacity. Lastly, we have Ryan Warner. Ryan is being recommended as the newest member of our administrative team at the Cuyahoga Falls Middle School as an assistant principal. Mr. Warner comes to us with 8 years of teaching experience as an intervention specialist, where he most recently served Revere Local Schools for the past 5 years, where in which Emerson attends, but she didn't know who you were. I did ask. She said she knew who you were. She was my reference check.
I'm sure she would not
Sixth
hold
grader.
back either.
Yeah, my 6th grader was your reference check. You're here, so Mr. He was an active member of his staff where he was chosen to serve on the PBIS committee, building leadership team, district leadership team, and IEP compliance team. Mr. Warner earned a Bachelor of Arts in Special Education from the University of Akron, a Master's of Arts in Autism Spectrum Disorder from Grand Canyon University, and a Master's of Education in Educational Leadership from the American College of Education. As a 6th grade class counselor, leader, and a number of years coaching both football and basketball, he is ready to continue his active involvement with our students at the Falls.
Will he be primarily at one of the campuses for the first?
Yes, that'll be the plan. I know Mr. Oswald's still kind of working through that a little bit, so he's still coming up with a plan, but I know, and I'm sure you've talked to him maybe a little bit about that.
Yeah, so he's able to go back and forth a little bit. My office will be in Roberts.
Okay.
And then Ms. Tucker, we want to get to know all the students before the switch, so we both go back and forth a little bit. But yeah, I'll be primarily in Roberts.
And then I had a question for you. So we have a gym teacher from Lincoln who's resigning, and previously we had a art teacher from Richardson resign, and we know that we could just hire to replace those folks. But we also know we're going to close an elementary school in a year, and I had reached out to you about this. I know you've been kind of making a strategic plan about this. Could you share some of that information with us?
Sure. So, in light of us knowing that we're going to be closing an elementary school, I'm not sure it's responsible in a couple different ways. One, hiring someone new only to potentially lay them off, I don't think that's fair. Also that the financial implications, we have an opportunity to save some money here. So we, Mrs. Bogdan and a couple of the principals got together and looked to see if we were able to absorb the specials. And so in reconfiguring our schedule a little bit, we were able to, we're going to have to replace the art teacher, but we will not have to replace the physical education teacher. So that will be a savings to the district as well. There will be some travel in there, at least for this 1 year, but it's also not uncommon for specialist teachers to travel among buildings, so. Yep. Good work on that.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Any other discussion or questions? Ms. Stokely, will you please call the roll?
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Thank you, and welcome all of you to the Black Diamond.
All right, single file line, come on up to the podium, you can save for the remarks. Ryan, you should go first, lead by example, right? All right.
I love how you hopped right up.
You do.
All right, hello. I just want to say I am excited to be here. I know a few people tied to the community, and people is what they said is what I love the most, is the people. And just a quick story is Mr. Oswald just got back from vacation at the end of the week. We were up here this morning touring the middle schools, and past other schools didn't stop in, but giving up his time. I know he's on vacation right now. And we also stopped at Roberts Middle School, and Mr. Johnson, the custodian, he had his work boots on, sweating, and he was cleaning something up. And we walked in, and he stopped, and he was like, "I got to give you a tour." I was like, "You look like you're into something." And he was like, No. He's like, "I'm leaving for vacation tonight. We'll leave a little bit late, whatever." He's like, "I'm going to show you around and show you all the tips and tricks around this building." And it just made, it just formed an opinion. And all these people say that the people of Cuyahoga Falls and the community, they're helpful in all this. And that's exactly 2 for 2 right there. Ms. Tucker has also reached out. And we're going to get going here in 3 or 4 weeks. But it really means a lot that people have been so helpful. HR, everybody, even during the interview process, everybody had great questions and very resourceful and helpful. And I appreciate it. And I think this is a great place to be. So I'm very blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I agree, everybody that I've encountered so far has been amazing, super welcoming. I actually used to live right up the road on 3rd Street, so I'm very familiar with the community, and I don't live in the Falls anymore, but I am very excited to be serving the community. So again, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Who's next?
I just wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity. I also met so many wonderful people. I interviewed first at Price and met amazing people there, and then moved forward to look into that preschool program, and I'm really thankful for all the kind people who have answered all of my questions, and I'm very excited to join the
Be prepared.
Yes, this therapist is prepared.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am truly, truly grateful and super excited. I'm very excited to join a team that invested so much into my children's education here at the Falls. My daughter just graduated in May, and my son will be a junior. So I'm eager to give back to my community and also contribute to the success of the students as well as the school district. We moved here from Pennsylvania in 2005, and there was a reason why we stayed here in the Falls. So we love it here, and I'm really excited. Thank you.
I found out today that she also takes classes at Quirk, Mrs. Schaefer.
All right.
Yeah, one of her, we have a mutual friend who reached out to me. She knows who it is.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt. I actually moved to the Falls about 3 years ago, and it's been an absolute blessing of a place to call home. Like Dr. Selico said, I did have my last semester of student teaching at Silver Lake, and then right after graduation I was a long-term sub for an intervention specialist, and then the next year, last year, I was a building sub. So I feel like with all of the opportunities that I had, experiences, relationships, I feel really ready for this role, and I can't wait to get started. If it's
Did you student teach with Miss Stats?
yes, sir.
Okay, that's our, we visited one time when he was student teaching.
Yeah.
And he got really nervous when we walked in.
Welcome, everybody, again, and thank you for being here. That brings us to item H, Superintendent CEO's business, Dr. Selico.
Thank you, Ms. Coco. Congratulations to our new hires. Looking forward to seeing you in the classrooms or in your offices working with students. So happy you're all here. Just a couple things, because you'll hear from me again shortly. In addition to, we were talking a little bit about House bills, and I would concur that it's so difficult to keep up with all of the changes. There's so much happening right now, and if you're not actively involved in the legislature, which not everyone is, and I understand that, but we're really at a time and a juncture that we need to be really reaching out. The latest, part of the good news that we received is that the vouchers, educational school vouchers, have been ruled unconstitutional in the Franklin County courts. That's step one. Yeah, that's step one. And you never know. It will end up in the Supreme Court. I'd bet money on that one. If I were a betting gal. But we'll see what happens. I hate to be a pessimist, but after starting my 30th year in education, it's we've seen for decades now school funding's been ruled unconstitutional in the Girolf decision, and yet here we stand, still unconstitutionally funding our schools, and we've gotten a little better, but
It's actually gotten worse. The percentage
worse,
of
yes.
the percentage of
That's
state
true.
support
That's
has
true.
decreased.
That's
Yes.
true. But for the couple of years, we
Yep.
got a little bit more fortunate. At least we got them listening to this fair school funding, and they did fund it. They're just not funding it fully. That's the problem. But it still remains, obviously, a challenge and a problem. But we'll see how it plays out. This will be appealed and appealed and appealed, and we'll see how it lands. But we certainly have been fighting that one for quite some time. Just two things that I've been working on, just to update you, the sales of the buildings. Kind of joking around a little bit in our office. I was telling the staff I have to go prepare for my open houses because I've been playing real estate agent this week. But I remain optimistic that you're going to have some offers to consider on both the high school and Roberts. So working on some people there. I've asked to have offers in the next month, like 3 weeks, and I know a couple of them are working through some things. So happy to say that we'll have some good, and I think some good offers to consider. And then still working on naming rights. You might have seen that we had another one come through for our band room, right? That's in the works. We will be doing a press release on our stadium. We can announce it because it's been approved. Will be Lambert Stadium. Lambert Buick has given us $250,000 for 10 years, and so we're pleased to do that. I'll be reaching out to the board to see if you're able to come for a signing. If you're able, we'll do a press release on the new field. So still continuing to work on those. I've tasked Cabinet this morning with brainstorming some ideas of some companies that they can maybe reach out to, especially in the advertisements. I really think there's a lot of money to be made there. KJ has 10 off the top of his head already, like in the works, and so we're going to plow ahead. Those will be about 2,500, 3,500, and 5,000 opportunities, somewhere in that range. So I think we'll get a lot of revenue there, which will go back into our athletics for the most part. So I won't take any more time. You'll hear from me more. Enjoying a little bit of summer and looking forward to going to summer school tomorrow and seeing some students.
Christine did a nice video on the sponsorship as well that went up yesterday. Yeah, it was nice.
Thank you. Any other comments? Questions?
I think that's under
Ready?
there, isn't it?
It
Is
is.
under there? Yeah.
Yes, you skipped over to the second instead of the first.
All right.
You're good.
Back at it.
It's okay.
I'm back at it. You guys get to listen to me twice in one night. I'm sorry. All right.
This is the exciting part of
This
your
is the
CEO's
good
business.
one, right. This job requires you to be responsible for good and bad news, I suppose. But so this evening, board, I would just like to provide an update on the work that we've done to prepare for our 6th through 12 campus move here that we will be having before you know it. We'll be in our new building in January, which is just a few months away at this point. I know when I first got hired, it seemed so far on the horizon, and and here we are talking about the move. So I just want to update you on the things that we've been doing, and team, please feel free to chime in because they have been responsible for so much of this work. So Ryan, are you going to lead me through it? All right. All right, so just to go back briefly to the very beginning, and those of you who are new to this, we have been meeting for literally years and regularly. So there are a lot of meetings that have been involved. We had a construction leadership team that predated me, but we continued those meetings. Those were with district and community stakeholders. Their goal then, their charge was to design, plan, and redesign. There were many concessions, as you know. The value engineering they referred to. There was a lot of work that went into prior to me even arriving. There were core team meetings that we continue to have, actually. Mrs. White serves loyally. She comes to all of our meetings and beats up the architects at times. Not literally, just figuratively. And I'm present at those, as well as other members of my team. And then we have TDA, who is our architect, and Hammond, the construction manager, are at those meetings. And they provide us with updates. We have discussions just to figure out what strategies we need, what the progress is, where there might be some challenges, some bumps, etc. Then we have design team meetings, which can be fun. Well, just don't ask the gentleman in the room. It's fun for maybe me. Yeah, you know how this goes. When we get into colors and things, maybe I step in a little bit. But this is where we meet and we talk about the selection of furniture, color schemes, the flooring, all of those fun kind of design decisions. Now, we are limited in our scope, so if there are color palettes in there that that are nice because it's nice and shiny and new. Would it be my first choice? Probably not, but they come to us with choices and selections, and you make those decisions. But we also did involve staff, I do want to say. Furniture, for sure, we involve students and staff to get their feedback. Unfortunately, some things were not affordable, so we had to scale back, which is understandable. But we tried to honor people's requests the best we could. The staff moving committee, we decided to form a committee of any staff member that wanted to be part of this, not just teachers. So we met two times in the second, one in each semester, I think. I can't remember at this point. But we would ask them for their input, what they would like to see, what they needed, and then, but more so, we would share with them what our thoughts were, what the moving details were, get their feedback, and then they would be the conduit from our offices here to the schools in informing our teachers and staff of the details of the move itself. And then we continue to have administrative planning at our offices. We meet twice a month. Cabinet, and both our middle school and high school principals have been part of that process. Just to touch base, we have a cadence and a Gantt sheet or chart that's called, and we go through that regularly to make sure we're honoring what we said the work we would do. All right. Communications in general, just to really tout the work that Christine has done. We really have worked hard to communicate with our parents and families through a variety of means. Our website, we have continued to have a link there that we reported our progress, and now we are shifting to make it more of a hub of information. So now the parent meetings, for example, we've shifted our focus where it was construction-based at first. Now we've shifted our focus to what do parents need to know, what are the schedules, those kinds that we're going to start to see more of practical information for our parents there as we transition. Our social media, we certainly have make announcements there. Christine has kept up with the different accounts, sharing our updates and milestones. She had lots of pictures, lots of videos you've seen. Our Roar newsletter, we always, I think, for at least the last 3 years I've been here, I think that we've made that a priority to provide updates in our Roar 4 times a year to our communities that are able to see pictures as well. As I mentioned, the videos, Christine is, she's taken us on some tours with her phone and, you know, oh, sorry, I didn't turn on the lights. I remember that captured, right, in the one picture. Showing us the different areas of the school, and then what I thought is some really proud work, and I wish, you know, I could say this was a great, a great idea by the district, but it really came from TDA, that they approached us and said, would you like to do this 12-part series? Which is great, but there was a lot of work on our end. Christine had to do the scripts, we had to share them with our staff, get feedback relative to those scripts, and then we had to come and, you know, be recorded, the different people, different members of our team. But I will tell you, this was a really, I thought, just a great community relations strategy, very, very informative to folks that haven't been able to come to the campus. You really are capturing a first-hand account of different areas of the school itself. So really proud of that. Thought that was really great. And then we had our staff and family messages. As you know, we put out emails, parent squares. Our internal communication is called Tiger Tales. So our departments at central office all write articles monthly, actually, and they love this task. That they do. They see all the smiles. They love it. When I say when Christine says it's Tiger Tail time, they all do that. They smile. They welcome the opportunity to write an article, and then we provide that to the staff, and they get some lengthy updates from us monthly. So all you new folks, make sure you are reading your Tiger Tales. There's a quiz periodically when I come in your classrooms. You have to answer. Just kidding. All right, so we have timelines and schedules and other things that we have been providing frequently asked question documents to families as well, and having that two-way communication where parents have had an avenue to communicate with us and ask us questions, and we would respond. Okay? So now we're just going to go kind of by season here, the things that we've done in a different season. So fall of last year, we continued, and you're going to see this, and I won't keep repeating it. The core team meetings, bi-monthly meetings, design team meetings, those have just continued to occur. Staff were invited to participate, as I mentioned, in the moving committee. We had the communications that have gone out announcing the details, so as early as, you know, the fall of 2024, even though we're not opening until January of 26. We continue to do campus visits, so we've had various people come and tour the buildings. We have been there, members of our team have gone and looked at the campus and just, you know, checked things out periodically. And then we had the feedback and questions from families submitted to the district, and that FAQ again was sent again in the fall, and we began our search for a moving company at that time. Moving on to the winter of 24-25, we had, again, many of the same things, but this is now where we started to, our food services, our HR, we're looking at different staffing scenarios, what that's going to look like as we merge. We had some technology surveys and planning that through Ryan's department to find out what technology teachers what their preference was, as long as it fit within our budget. And so plan for that, and those devices are here, I believe. Are they? Yeah. Very good. So the timeline and packing directions then were sent to the staff, so they were clear on, we've sent a very detailed schedule of events for them so they could see, map out months in advance, they could see, and we've held ourselves accountable. We've looked at that schedule and said, did we do this? Check, check, check. So we've done a great job keeping up with that. Student Services was planning for, they had to get a new IRN number, so that will be, we are starting the year out with one IRN, right? Okay. And then Teaching and Learning begins their focus on team alignment, new courses. Now we're starting to work with the staff on what transitioning will look like, and working together with new folks and new focus perhaps. And our labor unions, we've involved them in regular meetings throughout this transition. So Ms. Bogdan has met with them regularly to be wide open and transparent about what we are thinking and what it may result in for our staff, because we're very sensitive to that, of course. And then plans were created. We're continuing to have this conversation about memorabilia and the digital legacy signage. So we're working on those things. That one has me a little nervous, to be honest, because I was standing outside today waiting to come in, talking to my mother on the phone. And right in front of me was like this thing that said like dedicated Cuyahoga Falls 1981. I was like, oh goodness, what is this now? Like, do I have to remember to bring this? But so the point being, there's a lot of things around the district that we really have to be mindful of that are important to people. So that will be a challenge, but we're doing the best we can. And then sponsorship opportunities, that's when we started to really campaign a little bit more for our naming rights. Moving on to spring 2025. So our moving company has been selected. You know, you signed off on that contract. Our auction arrangements they're starting to come through our buildings very soon to look at our items, to plan for that. We've been looking at our emergency response, coordinating locations, accessibility for our students with special needs and disabilities at the new campus. Technology, as I mentioned, has been ordered, installation of it at the new campus. We had a family information night in May. We did, again, more campus visits, the Black Tiger video series that we talked about. Again, now we've notified our staff of what their teaching assignments will be, of course. In the spring, we did that. And more surveys, this time done by our students, to solicit their feelings and thoughts and questions. And from what I understand, the feedback we've received, they were kind of insightful, and the things that they're curious about or their wonders and concerns were interesting. But we want to make sure that we address our students' anxieties and excitement as well. And then the staff began their packing, and the middle school staff received professional development to merge the two schools together. We're obviously trying to work on some team building there. And Ryan, we're ready for the summer. That's now. So a lot of similar things. The website pages, working on now like merging things, right? Christine with the Parent Square. The ribbon cutting, we're now planning for our big events, right? The ribbon cutting, Clifford Stadium celebration, those dates, all of that information will be in our next ROAR. So those are all listed there. The building tours, meeting with, as I mentioned to you, prospective buyers for our properties. The plans for the Lambert Stadium, we're working on that, soft opening, and what that will look like. The student information systems, starting to reflect our two middle schools. We have planning now for our fall bus routes. Margie and her team are working on those. The technology equipment again, as we talked about, the auctioneer, and then the acquisition of the naming rights sponsors continues. And then this fall, what do we have coming up? So building tours, we'll have a field trip for our students. So again, to help alleviate some of their anxiety, we're going to bring every student in grades 6 through 12 to the new campus. Our plan is to do that in December, so it's relatively fresh. You don't want to do it too soon. So we'll bring every student there. We'll plan for that. We'll have staff that will have opportunities to come to the building. We've already given them the dates and times, I believe. Some might be tentative, but we will stick to those. The scheduling, the pickup of schedules for our students at Roberts and Bullock, the new students. So we will have some. We will not have a customary open house that we have in the past. It will be scaled back. It will be more so for our new students entering the middle school, 6th graders, new 9th graders. But we will have an opportunity to have the building open and people can come and visit. We won't have staff on hand because they're not required. If they want to come, they can. But the real open house will take place in January. And then again, they continue to pack. We've had a family information communication about the transition. In October. And Lambert Stadium, again, the opening, the district, we take ownership of the building in November 26th is the date. The stadium date would be August 1, I believe. And we have a lot of work to do around the communication of the new bus routes for second semester. That will be a challenge. And then the celebration, as we mentioned, the final building tours and ribbon cutting ceremony. So we have a few things to do this fall. We were just talking about that today. There's a lot coming up in the fall. It's going to be a very busy year. Mr. Jones and I were chatting about it. So I said, I know it's going to be exciting. This year's going to fly by. It will go so fast. And then lastly, our move-in. This is kind of spelled out again in that document that we gave to our staff. So December, the teachers will start to move into their classrooms. We're going to give them an opportunity to come in and bring their personal items that they want to have. And then the movers themselves over that winter break will be hustling to get all of that in. There most likely will be some preliminary move-in, especially if we get the okay earlier than November 26th. We'll gradually move things over. And then on the 5th and 6th of January, the staff will have those days to work in their classrooms and set up. And then January 6th will be the middle school open house, followed by then the next day where the middle school students' first day will be on the 7th, and then that's when the high school will have their open house. Then the next day the high school will attend, so then on the last day there of the week, all students will come back to school. And the reasoning for that is probably the obvious, right? Like, we want to make sure that we are bringing a small number, a manageable number of students in for pickup, drop-off, scheduling, traffic flow. We're going to be monitoring all of that, and we will be making adjustments. We've told parents this all along, family members, that there will be adjustments that will have to be made. I don't doubt that at all once we see it while we're executing it. So we have the online auction will go live so that January 5th through the 16th, items will be picked up. And so we do have we've asked the auctioneers to stick to those time frames. And then we have our building farewell tours, and our Bullock abatement begins in January of 26. So people might be a little confused about that. The Bullock building will remain there for that semester, and they'll begin to abate it and start taking it down. It will still be there. And parking will be a challenge until Bullock is demolished and parking lots are put in. So for the following school year, we'll be in good shape, but that first semester will be a challenge. So that's what we've been working on. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to see all the things, so you don't, and I know this board well enough that you know we've been doing work, but that you can feel confident that we'll be ready in January to make that move. But kudos once again to the team for all the things that they've been doing. But I'm happy to entertain any questions if you have them.
You mentioned the parking. We know that parking is going to be a huge challenge for that, second semester. The first semester it's open. Do we have or anticipate there not being enough parking with student drivers and things like that? Do we think that there's enough space for everyone without that other parking lot?
It's going to be tight. The biggest, I think, inconvenience, if you will, is that the students are going to have to walk, if I recall. It's a little bit of a walk from where they're going to park.
They're going to have to walk up the hill because I think Mr. Smith said at the parent night that he's going to have them park down at the stadium parking, and then they'll have to walk up the hill.
Yes.
So
we'll hear about it.
it'll be inconvenient. Certainly, if we have any snowstorms, it'll be particularly inconvenient.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that our custodial staff will do the great job they always do.
Yeah, that's what we anticipate. It'll be tight. We don't have a great number of student drivers, but it will be, probably more inconvenient than anything.
It'll be a quick turnaround. I think what's exciting too is because you put some of the dates on here. So we're going to do the ribbon cutting on December 6th. So we get the keys, we know at latest November 26th, and then we're letting our community see the finished product 10 days later. So we're getting you in quick because that's what everyone asks is when they can see it. So we're getting them in real quick, which I think is important because the community really wants to see it. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And then a month later, students will be in.
That week of January 6th through that week. I think we're going to need to plan on having something extra special for all the staff and everybody working there as appreciation. That's going to be a very exciting but very exhausting week, I'm sure, for everyone.
Mr. Jones' words to me today were, our end of the year celebration better be a good one for all the administrators, because we're going to need it after this year.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm more stressed about the moving in time, that December period,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Well, the moving company we feel real good about. They've got good reviews. I've spoken to the superintendents who have used them superintendent, and he had a very good experience with them. The folks at Ohio Schools Council feel good about them. They vetted them, and so we're optimistic that they'll be good. They are going to come in and talk directly with our staff, answer their questions. Like, that was something above and beyond that no other company had shared with us that they would do. So.
And so much of it is just brand new that we don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
But, and I talked to Lucas from Hammond about how that happens, and he said they just walk it all in. They walk it up a flight of 2-3 flights of stairs.
Yeah. I don't want that job.
Every
I wouldn't either.
every desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a reminder for those who are listening, we're not bringing furniture over, so that's one. The new schools come with new furniture. So we're not really allowing all the old furniture, like this is gonna stay auctioned. No one try to sneak in some old bookshelf. Anything else?
Thank you very much for
Thank
the
you.
update and for everything, again, that's going on. And we know and are confident that all of this excitement and everything that you're doing is on top of continuing to focus on the education of our students. And that's for everyone in our district. And to be able to do all of that, we know is a lot because it's its own beast. And we're very appreciative and exciting times. It's been a long time coming waiting for this community. 20 years. A long way. COVID made it even longer. We're excited. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Item 9 is board business. Number 1 is resolution declaring it necessary to renew an existing levy. The recommended action is a resolution declaring it necessary to renew an existing 9.9 mil tax levy for the purpose of current expenses and requesting the Summit County Fiscal Officer to make certain certifications pursuant to section 5705.03 and 5705.21 on the revised code.
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
This is a renewal, last one that we have, that we can, for a while, that was in our list of making continuing. This is the first opportunity is in November to put this on. The last opportunity will be in November of 2026. This is the first step. After this, we submit this to the county auditor, and then they give us the stuff back, and then there'll be a second resolution hopefully at the next meeting.
When does our emergency levy expire?
2027. We just renewed it in 22. I can't remember if we did that.
That was for 5 years, I'm sure.
So we stopped collecting in 2027. Tax year 2026, but then collection in 2027.
Okay. And then we know we need new money
Most likely it's
soon, probably. We'll need new money. And then what's the effective millage of this?
this one,
Yeah.
it's down to 6.22 as of tax year 24.
Would there be any benefit to since you're getting rid of replacements, to replacing this and renewing it for a continuing period of time?
I mean, the benefit would obviously be that you would see, more money in that. But I think that does come with the risk of whether you can try that.
It'd be the last time we could ever try to replace the levy.
Yes. Those are, I mean, you could. It's definitely, I think, can be confusing.
I would say county agencies have been doing replacement levies and they've been sailing to success. And there's another one on the ballot in November for replacement for the Children's Services Board.
If we do a replacement, do we lose, or do the taxpayers lose their homestead productions? That would be what I would be concerned about, because that
That
is,
is because it's not the same. That I don't know for certain.
I didn't mean to just spring that on you.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to think of, I probably have that information.
I mean, just because typically we're like, if this doesn't pass, we have to go back for new money, then
Replacement levies.
it's going up, so
They-
would
I
this
was
be the
looking at
same
this.
thing?
If you have replacement levies, the additional portion would not qualify. So like the increase, which you would anyway, would be considered new. So what you're already doing, yes, but then let's say those other 3 mills or whatever it is.
Just like it wouldn't anyway.
Just like it would anyway.
So are you suggesting doing a replacement for more money and adding and combining?
You can't replace for more
mean-
money. You can only replace, the replacement renews the millage.
The millage at the 9.97 now.
It takes your effective millage back to the past millage. So we're at an effective millage at 6.22, and it takes that effective millage back to 9.97 based on today's valuation, not on the 1991 valuation that this was originally passed at. That's what a replacement levy does. And the state's getting rid of them. So this is also our last opportunity to ever do that. And we need more money anyway. So, if we're talking about levy fatigue, we could do both of those things, attempt to do both of those things in one attempt, as opposed to, which was the other board members' feelings of why they were putting this on in November, because it's what we always do to try to get out of levy fatigue.
And we could put that replacement on as continuing?
Renew and replace for a continuing period of time. And give it a try. And then if that doesn't work, just like
If that doesn't
other
work, we can
folks
go
said, we
back.
can go back to renew the existing
original.
one, because replacement's no longer an option anyway. Then we could go on in May.
Well,
I-
you'd
do we-
most likely have to have a special meeting because.
I'm having a hard time hearing down here.
You would have most likely then have, if that's what you want to do, have a special meeting.
Like if we need time to talk about
Right,
this
yeah,
and
I
figure
feel
it out.
like, I feel like I need time
'Cause
to
it's-
digest all of, like, this new suggestion. I'm not opposed to this
Yeah,
suggestion,
yeah.
but I feel like I need time to digest
Yeah,
it.
we probably need to provide you with some information, and we meaning Ms. Stoikoi, she's the expert on this. But then, yeah, I was just saying, like, timeline-wise, you know, that so we might have to include a special meeting so you meet the timelines of when you have to declare a levy.
You have to get the 2 resolutions passed into
Yeah.
the board by August 4th or 6th, one of the two, at 4 p.m. But then you have to give the fiscal office enough time in between the 2 meetings. But if you let me know who to contact at the fiscal office, I can nudge them along. I got friends.
What are everyone else's thoughts on this?
So instead of renewing the levy, I'm sorry, it was hard to hear down here. So
It
instead
was.
of renewing our current levy from 1991, we would be replacing it to restore the original millage. So it would be it would be more revenue for the school district. Excuse me. But we just don't know how much, because we don't have that yet. Is that what you're saying?
Is that,
Yeah, we'd have to, we get that from the county.
Yeah, it would
I
be,
mean, I can roughly tell you, we have a little over $1 billion in valuation, so.
it would be 3.75 mils at $1 billion valuation.
Is this thoughts? Is this something
$1 billion
that we want to get more
valuation at
information on and
35%.
consider? If so, we will need to do a separate,
yeah,
we'll need to do a special meeting.
yeah.
Valuation. Wait,
So
we're,
we won't
we're
be able
getting
to
to some math right here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't
Yeah.
We
Ms.
wouldn't
Schaefer's trying to
renew,
ask a
we'd
question.
wait on this and then look at the replacement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we are, with the new requirements, we would be losing the ability to do replacement levy,
Correct.
but our replacement levy would stand, though.
Yes, we could put it on in November.
And then if we were not successful, then we could reevaluate.
And then go back
To the
our-
In
renewal.
May. We'd still have
May.
2 more opportunities
Right, in
to
May.
renew this levy.
May and November?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good,
So in
maybe,
my thought, it's just, if we're gonna take this chance in November, why not make the most of the chance? The
Sure.
reality is, we need more operating money. We all know that.
Right.
We're doing all these other things, we're saying we're gonna need more.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to kind of do both in one issue, so that makes it a little bit less confusing. How much does a mill collect again?
Like a million.
A million on 350 million. So give us,
Because that valuation is already the
so get us $3,750,000 a year.
I'm not opposed, I would like more information
Yeah.
before I were to, decide that's what we're doing, but I'm not opposed to doing that with a special meeting and having more conversation about it if everybody else is good with that.
I do think it is a good idea, when you mentioned for, like, just the levy fatigue. We have renewed several, and now this one's gonna be up either way. And we know that we're going to have to get more money, and then our emergency levy, we won't be able to renew that.
right.
So actually, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to,
Because that emergency levy we're gonna have to do is like a whole new levy. That's
Yeah,
gonna be a whole nother
exactly.
battle, trying to get people to understand that this is money you're already given us, but the state took our ability
Yeah,
to say
exactly.
that we're just renewing it, so now we have to put it on as a new levy, which is gonna be a
It'll be-
lot of
yeah.
community education.
Exactly.
But this is an existing
And we'll
thing
still
that
be
we
able to
have.
get that replacement on the ballot in November if we pause right now.
Yeah, you
Okay.
have to have a special meeting most
Okay,
likely for that
that's-
second resolution in order
Okay.
to meet the deadline to get it to the Board of Elections, but
Okay.
if that's doable, they're usually pretty quick
Yeah.
with this kind of stuff, pending.
When would we
I've
need-
never had an issue.
Could we have this on the 9th and then a special meeting after that, or would we need to have a special meeting before that?
You know, I would say you'd have a special meeting after that, because
I would agree. And it gives us some time.
it gives you, it gives the
Okay.
county time to
Yeah.
get, because they've got to return that, so we're at their mercy for that before we can do the second resolution, so whether you do it like on,
The
and there's still
23rd
like the 23rd and the 30th.
would be okay.
Will we know, won't we know firmly what has been voted on regarding levies, like within the budget bill will be out?
Yeah.
So we'll have more information there too, to see where they land is relates to what Mr. Gomez was referring to, the.
can I ask another kind of logistic question? So at the next meeting, we could have the additional information and have a resolution kind of ready to go, and then decide at that time which way we want to go on the renewal or the
Or the
Replacement.
replacement, thank you.
Yeah.
The re- And then we could, at that time, decide which way we want to go. Okay, that makes sense to me.
And then would it be helpful if Ms. Stoikvoy showed the impact of that $3,750,000
Yeah,
just
it
to the
would.
just to the bottom line of the forecast? Okay.
It would.
Which would then give her time to do that, seeing as she's closing out the end of the fiscal year.
I get it.
She's not busy
We
or
had to push
anything.
back this reduction presentation until the first one in August.
I haven't asked about the financial health indicators yet either.
I know.
Listen, and I get it, I pay my property taxes today. It's not that I want that bill to get higher, but this is the system in which the state has given us to fund public schools, so until there's a different system, this is what we've got, so.
I do have, yeah.
And then-
All of those ready.
And then do a special meeting 6:23, which is when we were potentially planning.
7:23.
Or 7:20. I don't know why I keep saying, I want June to just last another
I
month.
mean, it doesn't have to be a Wednesday.
Yeah. It does, yeah, it wouldn't have to be,
You know.
but if that works, I think that's what we had tentatively as possible, a date, if we were gonna do the, special meeting for the the elementary building. Anyways, if that works for everybody, 7:23, Wednesday. Okay.
The levy committee was getting new signs anyway, so it works.
Yes. Okay. Do we need to table this action?
Yes,
I'll move to table this to the July 9th meeting.
and I'll second.
Ms. Stokoe, would you please call the roll?
A second, sorry.
Ms. White?
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris? Oh, Mrs. Schaefer, sorry.
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, item 2 is adoption of our strategic plan. It is recommended that the Board of Education approves the strategic plan for the years 2025 to 2029.
So moved.
Second.
I may just make one note. So we approved our goals, but this is the comprehensive plan that you will see here that the team has worked on. The 3 areas specifically, and then the one kind of consolidated document. The only thing I'd like to mention that we talked about at Cabinet this morning is that we understand, we are very respectful of the goals and objectives that have been established. We don't plan on touching those because they're clear and we understand the direction. But action steps are some that can be modified at times when you're getting into the nitty-gritty. You might find that you missed an action step, you might need another action step. One of your goals might have led us in a different direction, you know, making us add. So I know that the board would not want us to like come back to you every time that you need to approve an action step, because that can happen, not necessarily frequently, but all the time, but on several occasions. So if the board just grants us the ability to change those and notify you if changes happen in our updates. But I just want to say that as you're considering, you know, approving it, that there might be some changes there.
Thank you. I'm very excited and proud of all the work that's gone into this new strategic plan, and that it's condensed, it's not too big, there's not too many objectives and goals and all of that, and so all the hard work that's gone into it, and I think the CFS is awesome with Cuyahoga Falls Schools. Thank you, Mr. Gomez. So I would like to just right now publicly, I think so much work has gone into this and we are very proud of it. I would like for us to read this really quickly out loud because I think it's important to do so. I don't know if does everyone have this copy with them? Or you're doing it off the back? Yeah. And then Ms. Schaefer, do you want to read Culture of Caring for us?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Do you want to read the Culture of Caring section?
Oh, sure. The Cuyahoga Falls City School District is committed to fostering a culture of caring for all members of the Black Tiger family. We believe that meeting the fundamental needs of individuals is essential for personal growth and success. Our goal is to prioritize and address these needs from basic to advanced, ensuring that every student, staff member, and community member is supported in their journey. By focusing on the unique needs of our district population, we aim to create an environment where all individuals can thrive academically, socially, and emotionally.
Should we read the objectives as well? I think. Do you want to read the objectives?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Objective 1, we will maintain and enhance a comprehensive support network that connects families with educational resources, eliminating barriers to ensure all students have equal opportunities to fully participate in their education. Objective 2, all Black Tigers will learn and work in a safe and secure environment. Objective 3, All Black Tigers will experience a strong sense of belonging where every individual feels connected to our school community. They will discover purpose by setting personal goals that contribute to their own growth and the growth of others. They will be inspired by hope, fostering trust, ambition, and high expectations to guide them toward a clear and purposeful future.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaker. Ms. White, do you want to read goal 2?
Goal 2, facilitating our financial future. As the hub of our community, we will manage operational resources with financial transparency and responsibility to provide a safe, cost-effective environment that enriches student success and promotes positive growth while fostering strong partnerships. Objective 1, ensure the continuous development and maintenance of facilities and infrastructure that provide for the academic, artistic, and athletic needs of present and future students in alignment with resources that guide our strategic plan. Objective 2, promote financial stewardship, transparency, and accountability by maximizing systems and resources to ensure all financial activities support the district's mission and strategic goals.
Thank you, Ms. White. Mr. Gomez?
Goal 3, steering to student achievement. We envision a future where all students are empowered to reach their full potential as lifelong learners and global citizens through personalized and innovative educational experiences that prepare students for employment, enlistment, and enrollment success. Objective 1, continuously improve student learning outcomes through response to intervention, our multi-tiered student success academic framework by using diagnostic assessments to drive differentiated instruction. Objective 2, foster a culture of continuous instructional improvement by implementing evidence-based instructional strategies and rigorous and relevant curricula resulting in increased student achievement. Objective 3, empower students for post-secondary and professional success by developing students' skills in communication, critical thinking, problem-solving, teamwork, and digital literacy, resulting in students being employed, enlisted, or enrolled.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Does anyone else have any comments to add?
You know, hearing it read out loud like that, this is exciting. I think this was really put together nicely. The specific words used are inspiring, but also like measurable, attainable type. I'm proud of this. Yeah.
I am as well.
Yeah, I think we've made a lot of good progress, and I'm optimistic about what our test data is going to show us when we get that presentation in September like we do annually. But I also think that if we really work hard on this over the next 3 years, that our district will be in a really great place. So I'm optimistic about the work that we have ahead of us. The one thing is, as I was digging into some of this with Dr. Seligow, is that I heard that our absenteeism rate is now down to 24%. So we might have to set that goal to make that goal a little bit more difficult, Mr. Elder. Because I know we're starting at 27, but if we're really starting at 24, we're going to have to dig a little deeper on that goal.
Well, if you stick with 1% and you still be where we should be, we're still going to
24.
it's still going.
Okay.
And we still want to make sure that data sticks, because,
I know.
you know how those things change, but we anticipate 24, which is great growth since.
It's great growth. I'll take the growth, but
Yeah.
I like strong achievement results. So
I
if we're really at 24 this year, then we're a few years ahead, and we can chip away even harder.
Measurable and attainable.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Stokely, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
I think we should clap for that one. I don't know.
It's a great
We're allowed to
effort.
clap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great effort.
It brings us to item 3, future agenda items.
We know that on the 9th, we'll have our elementary discussion. And then our replacement levy discussion. And then we also have Ms. Stovall's evaluation executive session that.
Oh, yeah.
As well.
In the budget.
Can we actually move that budget to the first meeting in August? Because there are some coding changes.
That's fine.
They updated some things in the use test manual, and I'm still working through those. I'm concerned I won't have enough time to give you a good report. So August I'll have more information. Everything should be set by then. A little more.
And then as a future agenda item, obviously no sooner than the second meeting in August, no sooner, the financial health indicators from the state. I know Ms. Stoicoy set that out to us, but if you could just walk us through that and how they relate to our district. I've done a little digging myself, but I think it'd be helpful to do it. But once we get through all the other stuff we gave to you this evening.
Anything else? That takes us to item 4, committee reports.
I know the core team
Yes, I know the core team. I think that's probably the only one we have.
We met, okay.
No, go ahead.
And it's still a lot of stuff. And, you know, it's not like I would think of fun things, but okay, we're getting there. And that's what counts. We're close. The building and the 1 and 4 through 4 exterior, that work is getting done on the curbs and the sidewalk. The stadium plaza, the concrete is prepped and poured, will continue. Carpentry, drywall paint, they're wrapping up the casework, the door installation, the ceiling grid, painting ongoing in building 4, building 3 final painting, and stage rigging complete. The flooring is ongoing. They're starting on the stair treads, and then they'll start initial cleaning of flooring in building 1. The glazing is continuing, especially in the main hall, high school curtain. The roofing continuing, ongoing. The roof ladder installation ongoing. Plumbing, the fixtures ongoing throughout the building with casework. Mechanical rooms are ongoing. The locker rooms coming along. HVAC again, they're installing the valve tags on piping and things like that. Electrical and technology, all of that is getting installed and going on in the auditorium, building 4, testing the fire alarms, which is very important, building out the tech closets and so on. The sound cabling in the auditorium also, that'll be something too. There's a little bit of late site work, but the specialties, elevator installation, kitchen equipment, the astronomy dome structure is installed. Signage is starting next month. Stadium scoreboard installation's going. The main high school gymnasium bleachers installation will be later this month. Auditorium sound panel installation scheduled to start next week. So the master schedule and update. We have the moving company, and they will get ready to move us. And I don't need to go over this because I think Dr. Celica already, kind of told us about that. So everything is kind of right on time. We're hoping to get the keys by November 26th, and it will be done. I can't believe it's been 20 years. 20 years. And so it's exciting. It really is something. So there you go. It's a lot of stuff, technical stuff, but all needs to be done.
That brings us to item 5, comments. Mrs. Schaefer, you're up first.
I don't really have anything.
Ms. White?
Just one, we of course lost another teacher, I'm sure. Lincoln Hackham Jr. passed away. just a little bit. He was really, lost his son in a horrible accident. It was awful. But he continued to work. He was a teacher here and a coach. And our condolences to his family and friends. He was really a wonderful man, wonderful teacher and coach. Sorry.
Thank you. I don't have anything today. Just welcome to our new Black Tigers as part of our family, and I hope everyone's enjoying their summer, and hopefully it's not going to be as hot as it's been the past couple days soon, and I hope our students are reading. That's all. That's it. Mr. Gomez.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate Mrs. Schaefer. She's been awarded with OSBA's Aptitude Award, and she'll get that award in October at the Galaxy Restaurant.
All right. Aptitude. All right.
You'll get it later, but I found out today.
No, that's awesome.
Anything else? We're good. All right. Item J is executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22. It is hereby moved that the board adjourn to executive session to consider the employment of a public employee or official.
I'll second.
Thanks.
She's always.
Ms. White. Okay. Ms. Stokoe, would you please call the roll?
7:50.
Ms. White?
Ms. White?
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye. Not paying attention.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Entering executive session at 7:00.